Hello again, welcome back. My name is Jesse Benedetti. I'm the owner, founder of the JB HIT High Intensity Interval Training. I do that all online, Monday through Sunday classes, 13 classes to choose from if you want to take advantage of one. First one is on me. So as you've been if you've been paying attention to the past videos that I've been doing, we've been talking about numerous things, anywhere from tutorials on what we're doing in our fitness stuff, just to life lessons based off of my experience in life and what I think that I could offer other people out there to help get through things. I was thinking about something that what should I talk about next, and then it came to my mind. I don't even have to think about it. I don't have to create it because life throws us what we want. Life throws us if we just pay attention to the opportunities that are there for us. Sometimes the opportunities look like adversity. Adversity is that wrapping sometimes it's on the present that doesn't look like so good. Like if you're anything like I am, when you wrap Christmas or birthday presents, it's not necessarily the best wrapping. So if you look at it from the outside, it's just not the greatest presentation. But when you open it up, that's what I'm hoping that we find out. That's what it's all about. So it's about presentation, how you present something, how things are presented, and how you can look at it. So it's all about how you respond to things that happen in your life. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. How you respond to things, how you look at things, how you view things, and how much control that you really have. You have as much or as little control in your life that you want to have. But with control comes responsibility, and that usually scares people a lot. That all that control, all that opportunity, and they get afraid to fail, afraid to succeed, afraid of the unknown. So just real quick, be a whole afraid of the unknown. We all go through that. We don't know what's going to be out there. We don't want to invest ourselves, make ourselves vulnerable into something, and then it turns out that it just doesn't happen. So 9 times out of 10, I would say my own estimate is not based off any true facts, no empirical studies, but about 90% of the time, those are all false beliefs that you may fail at something, but it's not like you think. So we're going to talk today about worst case scenarios and realizing the unknown is your friend, not your enemy. Don't be afraid of it. So worst case scenarios are out there. If you don't know a lot about me, my life, my childhood, my everything, which is probably the majority of you, because if you know anything about me, I'm pretty personal. I keep myself to myself. But this is my chance to kind of get outside of my comfort zone. Now, it's very different because you may look at me in my classes or just in public and think that I'm a very extroverted person. That's not true. I think I'm a little bit of both. Professionally, with my work, my career, I am extroverted. I like being in front of an audience. I like being in front of the stage. Just before you even ask, I am on a treadmill right now. So I'm combining a couple of different things, talking to you while getting some good mileage in today. So that is why you see me bobbing around. So back to what we were talking about just being afraid of the unknown, being afraid of the things, the worst case scenario. What you're going to come to realize, what I've realized in my life, is it's easy to talk about simple things, but that make the biggest difference, but they're not hard to follow through with. So the biggest thing I think is seeing a worst case scenario, whatever that worst case scenario might be, and being okay with the worst case scenario and then be able to move on from that. The idea is if you can handle any of the worst cases, if you have it in your mind, physically, mentally, and you can handle it emotionally to as much as you think so, then whenever it happens, then it's fine. Whatever happens from there, you either expect it, the worst case, and it happens, or something else happens and it's not as bad as you thought. So you always build yourself up. It's like in a movie, or if you've ever talked to somebody in life and they say, I'm going to tell you something, and then they tell you the worst thing possible, and you just get all distraught and get upset. They say, okay, that's not really it. And they tell you something that's half as worse. So it's the same thing. Because when you hear the half as worse part, then you're just like, oh, it's not so bad. You're building yourself up a lot throughout life. And that's what we do in our mind. We play little mind games with ourselves. And it's not just once, it's not twice, it's all the time. Our minds are the hardest thing that we can have in our life. We're the most critical of ourselves. We're the most judgmental of ourselves. It's all us. So if we can take control of how we think, take control of how we feel, and be a lot more proactive instead of reactive, things are going to get a little bit better for us in life, at least in the experience that I've seen in my life, people's lives around me that I've helped to change and mold and kind of get better in their lives. So we're going to take an example in my life. I've always tried to avoid worst case scenarios. I don't call people back because I don't want to hear the bad news. I don't want to do anything. So I'm going to talk about one of the hard times in my life back in 2012. Back in 2012, I was first diagnosed with bladder cancer. Now, if you've listened to any of the other videos before this, you realize I've had to fight it on and off for the past 9 years. Most recently, getting diagnosed with it again at the beginning of this year, 2021, 9 years later. Almost exactly 9 years to the day of getting it the first time. This was my fourth time. So we're talking back in 2012. At the time, I was living in New York City, and I was teaching ballroom dance. I was teaching one person specifically. Her name is Lisa, and I was having some problems in my urine, but this actually, goes back a little bit further. So let's put a pause in 2012, and let's take a look back in 2009, 10. I was living in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. I went in, I was teaching dance there, competing. I was at the top of my career at that time, at the peak, doing well, winning, and all that kind of good stuff. So all I thought, everything was great. I was invincible, I was immortal, everything was good. And then all of a sudden I started seeing a little bit of drops from blood in my urine. So I let it go for a little while because they would come and go, come and go. I went in to see a doctor. The doctor basically said, it's just a urinary tract infection. I'll give you some antibiotics. He did, and it went away. All right, that's fine. So a few months later, comes back again. I go back to the doctor again. I was like, okay, I've already been here before. So what they thought about when they went through all of this stuff is they realized that it was probably due to maybe supplements that I was taking. Nothing bad, no performance enhancing drugs or anything, but I was taking supplements, and they said because of your workout regimen, you're probably just overstressing your body, your bladder, and so it's normal to take the antibiotics. And again, taking the antibiotics again. So that was 2010-ish. By this time, I've been told, okay, you have it. I had a health insurance through work at the time, but then in 2011, I left Florida, moved to New York, and I started teaching dance in New York, originally in Mamaroneck. And so from there in Westchester County, I was co-owner of a studio with two other individuals. Things were going great. Going to 2012, things were going well. I found myself coaching some dance up in Boston in probably February, March-ish time period, probably February. I started feeling really, really bad again. Felt dizzy, felt out of place. So I actually went to the emergency room in Boston, and they looked at everything, all the vitals. My heart was good, everything was good. I looked perfectly healthy. And again, urinary tract, third time. So I had to pee, urinary tract infection, third time of that. So at this time, now I've gone to the doctor 3 times. Once the emergency room. So I assumed that everything was fine. Everything was good, everything was fine. So I got to really take my time with everything. But then I was talking to Lisa. Now we go back into what I was talking about in 2012. I talked to Lisa, come to find out she's actually a former oncology nurse. Talked about my urine. She gave me a couple of suggestions, vinegar, things like that for urinary tract infections. And then it's just, I started feeling weird. Just out of nowhere, I started feeling weird. Then I feel fine, then I feel weird. Then I feel fine, then I feel weird. And it just got to a point where it was just like really, really, really shaky and not doing good, shaking, not doing really well. But it's only for moments at a time. And the last straw came on a competition. We were driving down to New Jersey, Atlantic City for a competition, or maybe Parsippany. That's not important. Anyways, we were driving down there, and I was just completely out, so tired. I mean, I felt like I had a flu. I was just really exhausted in 2012. And at this point, we went down, finished the competition, and Lisa said, you need to go to the doctor. And well, I've been told 3 times that I had a urinary tract infection. So what was this doctor going to tell me? Plus, I don't want to hear any bad news. Plus, I don't have any health insurance at the time. So you put all that together for the perfect storm that it's just not going to happen. I told her I'll go eventually when I get some insurance, putting it off, procrastinating. And then eventually, Lisa told me I'm going to make an appointment with an oncologist. And so I need you to make sure, a urologist, but it was more specifically about the bladder. So and she goes, if I make the appointment, because at that time I had to get a referral, it was just too much trouble, all that kind of stuff. So but I'm going to make an appointment with a urologist. If I can do that and bypass all of that stuff that you were doing before, bypass having to actually go and get health insurance, get a referral, do all that. If you'll do that, if I can get you the appointment, will you go? I said, absolutely, thinking that that's not going to happen because the medical field, they had their standards of what they could do and what they were going to do. So she actually wound up not too long after that getting the appointment. I said, all right, that's fine. We go in, we talk to the doctor, Dr. Bauer, and he's like, well, bladder is a unique thing. So if something's happening inside of it, we can see on the outside that everything looks fine. But if something's happening inside, the only way to look is to actually look inside. We take a little scope, we go up through your pee hole, your urethra into your bladder, and we just kind of look around, and then we see what's inside. I said, cool, all right. I said, we're gonna give you some medication for this to make you kind of go out so you don't feel any of this stuff, some conscious sedation, so you won't feel any of it. And so we set an appointment not too long after that to go for that. Went to that appointment, everything looked great, everything was fine as far as getting started. I don't remember much because I was, heavily intoxicated with the drugs. So then from there I woke up, everything was great, I was feeling on top of the world. And then we get taken into the office with Dr. Bauer so he can give us an assessment. And he said, I can't give you 100% answers because I have to send away for a biopsy, but based on my experience at the time, you have bladder cancer. Now, that was a deafening, everything shut down. If you've ever seen it in any movie where everything just kind of goes silent and all you hear is that high-pitched squeal, that's kind of how it was. It was just surreal. I couldn't believe that it was happening. And Lisa was able to go into her nursing mode at the time and just kind of put on that face and just keep on asking questions, finding out what to do. And eventually, they did take the tumor out, and they said that it was half the size of the inside of my bladder. So, like, if your bladder is this, it's half of that, and this is where all the problems were coming from. Now, the doctor tried to help and say the other doctors just wouldn't have ever seen this happen, wouldn't have even guessed on it. That's why they never told you to see a professional or a specialist, somebody that's 32 years old or younger, having bladder cancer without being a smoker, without being around toxic things, all of these other things. It's basically like a 1 in 10 million chance. So it's not something that the doctors would have actually seen, or thought about, which is kind of fair, but not fair to me at least. So I got the worst case scenario. I was told that I have cancer. I was told that I had it for quite some time, then it grew. But the good news was that it didn't grow outside of the bladder, so they were able to save the bladder. It came back again and again, within that 1 year of 2012. And then by 2013, it kind of went away after a lot of treatments. And then it came back recently. But the point of all of this is not to talk about my bladder cancer, but I was afraid to face it. The same thing, even in just this year, 2021, even with the pandemic, I was using the pandemic as a scapegoat. And I was saying, well, I can't go get my bladder checked because the pandemic, and that was months after they've already said that you can do it. I was just making excuse after excuse. Because every single time, going three times a year, 4 times a year to go get my bladder checked, but aggressively checking it, every time there's that brief moment of waiting to see the worst case scenario. So that worst case scenario is obviously coming back. And again, I get faced with it again and again and again. So And I've come to realize that that's just what happens. Bladder cancer is one of the few cancers that is a very aggressive cancer, that it's basically when it's going to come back, not if it's going to come back. And so it's just a very long stretch of hard work to keep on with it. So point of all of this is, worst case scenario, because I had cancer we moved on, things like that. The cancer actually pushed me and motivated me to do a lot of great things. It pushed me in directions I wouldn't have normally pushed myself before. At the very beginning, I took a lot of that sadness and a lot of that fear of the cancer, and I used it. And Lisa and I trained together, worked together in accomplishing the training for an Ironman. We did it all within 1 year, learning how to swim, learning how to do bikes, and learning how to do all that for an Ironman. And so we ran different triathlons. We did a sprint, an Olympic triathlon. We did a half Ironman. We went to do the full Ironman, and very unprecedented waters made it very hard. Over half the people didn't even finish the swim, including us. So, but we had trained. We were ready for it. Otherwise, we could have done it. But that was a whole different thing. We took something that was so negative, the cancer, the treatments, the chemotherapy, and we turned it into something positive, with learning how to swim, learning how to do a triathlon, spending time together, having a great time with that. Sometimes you have to remember that the bad things are only there to make you appreciate all of the good things. We all fear stuff. We all fear the unknown, but we have to realize what we want out of life is unknown. So we can either fear it so much that it keeps us from what we want. Sometimes we don't even know what it is, or we can just dive right in and face it. Worst case scenarios are there for you to understand. Fear stops progress. Fear stops motivation. Fear stops a lot of things. But you've got to really buckle down a little bit and understand, if you're going to progress, if you're going to get further in your life, you've got to accept it. Look at every situation and look at the worst case scenario. Ask yourself, if this happens, and really go outrageous with it. If this happens, will I be okay? Can I be okay? Or is it too fearful of you to stop and have to not do it, not challenge yourself? So that's my little 2 cents today. Drop comments down below. Let me know. You can email me at jesse@jbhit.com. Come take a class. Just try, just once or twice. Try going outside of that comfort zone. Our comfort zones, our fear, those fear things keep you away from things that you could possibly have. And then years down the road, you're going to be living with regret. So you have to kind of just ask yourself, would you rather live with fear and regret, or would you rather live knowing that at least you tried? Maybe you failed, maybe you got something better out of it. The opportunities are there if you want them, but you've got to have the motivation within you. Nobody can make you want it except for you. But there's always going to be people around you, me, other people that are going to be there to help you on your journey. You're never alone unless you think that you are. But you aren't. There's people out there. People are out there. Sometimes you're looking for specific people to be there for you, and it's not those people that are there for you. It's the people that you're overlooking. So before I go on a whole nother tangent, just keep that in mind. Try something today that you're scared of. It's small, so it doesn't have to be big. Something small. I'm scared of things daily. Try to do one new thing a day. Try to do something that's taking you outside of that comfort zone every day. And eventually you'll have more confidence, more sense of achievement. You'll have a lot more things than you had before. And even if it goes badly, at least you know. And sometimes knowing is better than not knowing. And when you know, that's where you have the power. Education is power, knowledge is power, knowing is power. So have the power. Have a good rest of your day. Hope to see you soon in class, or hope to hear from you in the comments down below. Have a good day.